Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Choice, Change and Action podcast. So you have me, your host, Simone Milasas, and today we have Paula Peralta joining us. Hello, Paula. And
hello,
I'm just
Simone.
going to, if you are listening, then bad luck, you can't see what I'm about to show you. But if you want to flip over to YouTube, where we've got all the shows on YouTube now as well. So you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll get that. And you can watch us in the background if you want to check us out, etc. But I'm just going to show you Tokyo because that's where I am. It's like, oh my goodness. So we've just been in Tokyo and doing a Choice of Possibilities class, Access Consciousness Choice of Possibilities class, which is one of the more advanced classes. And I haven't been to Japan in 5 years for, I guess, Captain Obvious reasons when, 2020 shit hit the fan, etc. And God, it's been so nice being back here. It's been so great being here and doing a Choice of Possibilities class. I am truly honored to be able to facilitate those classes. And I am having so much fun. And the level of gratitude that the Japanese have was like just off the charts. Like there was a few people in the way they thanked me and greeted me. I was like, I nearly lost it because I was just like, oh my God, this stuff is changing their lives so dynamically. And it's just so nice to be at a class and have, bodies in there. And also, Paula, I want to say thank you to you, because you've been here in Tokyo with me and you were one of my online hosts, but you were my live online host. And I was thinking about it this morning, and because there's a lot of people in your life that sort of are there and they contribute and they sort of come and go. And then there's a bunch of people in your life who truly contribute. And I was just really grateful for you this morning because you really contributed to the class. It was really fun having you as an online host, like sitting right in front of me and helping me like with all the questions, etc., like that. And you just make it a lot of fun. And I was just having this gratitude moment of the people I have in my life and who I guess I lean on in a way, and they're there. So I just want to say thank you. And that's not the topic that we were talking about today, but I just wanted to express my gratitude as well, because I'm not so sure that we all express our gratitude to each other. I want to say as much as what we could, because with gratitude, so many things expand. And I'm just super grateful for so many people, everyone that I work with. It's just like, wow, how did I get so lucky? So, but today, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for that. Thanks for Simone. But also too, before we jump into like the official topic, can I just say something about what like that energy that you just delivered, the gratitude? What's been really cool about having you in my life is that I have actually learned more about what gratitude is and what it looks like. And the value of that for me has been that I can say, okay, I know what gratitude looks like with Simone. Like I know what that energy sort of feels like. So then I can start to look at, and we're going to, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about money today, but like I can then look at that and say, okay, if I know this energy of gratitude, like how can I have this energy with everything in my life, whether it's my business, my body, or even money? Like, and so I think, and this was a huge aha moment for me in the COP, which you just mentioned, was like, if you know this energy in any place of your life, whatever the energy is, whether it's gratitude, whether it's joy, whether it's, fun or whatever that is, like if you have even a little bit of it in one area of your life, where can you actually duplicate that in other areas and expand it? And I think it's so easy, like going in, and I not sorry to take the host away from you, but like going into this conversation about money, it's so easy to go into the problem, but it's like, what if you actually approached it from like, what do I know? Like, what where can I find the ease in my life?
Yeah.
And then how do I duplicate that and,
I like that.
and have the conversation about money?
Have the conversation about money. And well, you know, even the point that like gratitude is something that not everybody desires to express all the time. And there's a level of vulnerability with it, but also with money, there's a level of vulnerability with it. If you're willing to be vulnerable with money, there's so much more that can show up.
Well, and I think too, I love that. Cause think about, and it's funny. It never shows up the way I think it's going to, but like when I use this, like even kind of this analogy of like our friendship and our working relationship and just like our interactions with each other, for me, like you said, it's brought in a new level of gratitude, like you said, a new level of vulnerability. And so then when I look at just how I walk through the world, like my financial reality has changed by having you in my life and having the tools of access consciousness in my life and having people in my life that have my back. Because once I know that energy of like having my back, I'm like, okay, what does it look like for me to have money's back? What does it look like for money to have my back? Right. So then you can start to actually play. And it sounds crazy if you're hearing this for the first time. I was there too. I was like, what? Say what now? Like, but like also it's this thing where it's like, even if you can play with it for like, even like 1% of play, if you're willing to like just explore the possibility here, it actually does. And I am like living proof, and I know you are too, Simone, and I want to get to some like questions with you about your, like how your reality's changed. But if you even are just willing to consider the possibility, the universe will
and
deliver.
That means you've
like
got to trust as well.
No question. Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is another one of the 5 elements of intimacy. Funny how that works.
You're welcome.
I actually know.
Yeah, 5 elements of intimacy. So we've just mentioned that 5 elements of intimacy. I talk about it a lot. I don't know if I've done a podcast just on that. Maybe I should. But the 5 elements of intimacy, which is an access consciousness tool, is gratitude, trust, vulnerability, honor, and allowance. And I use those tools like so OCD to ask to have those tools with myself. Like, where am I not being those 5 elements of intimacy with myself? And every night I would destroy and uncreate everything that is, all the judgments, all the limitations, all the barriers, all the fixed points of view, all the rightness, all the wrongness, all of it. And I would use the access consciousness clearing statement, everything that is, times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds, which you can know more about that at accessconsciousnessclearingstatement.com, or theclearingstatement.com, actually. It'll be on the show notes. But I really worked with that. And it's interesting because if you have that 5 elements of intimacy with you, then you can have that with others, but you can also have it with money. It's like, what does that look like if you're being vulnerable with money? It's like trusting. It's like being in allowance. It's like honoring money, like having gratitude for money. I mean, how many people just get pissed off about money rather than actually being grateful? And even if you can start that right now, you might have $10 in your wallet or $1,000. It's like, whatever it is, what if you were grateful for what you have? So then you can actually ask for more.
Yeah. And you brought up something on the COP that I thought was so brilliant. And you talked about how, like if you went back in time, right? How many ever years? 10, 15, 20, how many ever years? 30, 40 years? Like, but you were talking about how if you were to have gone back to like the beginning, whether it was like, 10 years, 15, 20, whatever that is, how many ever years, like you could never have like imagined or created the financial reality that you have now, like the stock portfolio that you have now, or, the ease with money that you have now. So I thought that was really cool. And like in this money conversation and talking about like, you may not have the money you want right now, but if you're looking into the future, can you talk about that, Simone? Like, I know you have, just what
wow.
how did you get there?
I don't really get it to how. I get it's like okay, look, I'm going to refer to Warren Buffett, who I think is an amazing, successful businessman. And one of the things he said a long time ago in an interview that I heard was, he said, someone said to him, why do most people not listen to you? And he said, because most people want to get rich overnight, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. And that is the truth of it. Because it's not like, I'm part owner of a friggin' castle in Italy now. It's like I have investments in a property in El Lugar. I have 3 stock portfolios. I've got, my first world problem at the moment is I have 2 BMWs and I'm trying to extend my garage to keep both cars, It's like, and maybe that sounds like a wanker, I don't know, like it's like, or an asshole, but it's like, I don't really give a shit if you think I'm an asshole. It's like, I'm choosing it and this is my life. And I'm asking for more as well. And it's not about just having more money in the bank account. It's like, what else can I create? And I think that's the basis of it, Paula, is right from the beginning. I mean, if I look at when I first started working with Access Consciousness, and I remember flying to Italy, economy ticket, staying at an Airbnb where we shared a bathroom. It was like I didn't have much money at all. I had another business that was supporting me flying over to Italy to be there for Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, doing a class there. So it wasn't like I was like, yay, I'm making money and Access is paying for all of this. It didn't happen like that. But what I kept choosing was what matched the energy. And for me, when I met Gary and Dane and Access, and I went, holy shit, I was like, these guys are talking about everything I want to create in the world. I had this business, Good Vibes for You. I was, going on tour with bands and doing their merchandise and making merchandise that I perceived would change people's lives and all of that, And I talk about it in my Joy Business book that I wrote. And it wasn't enough. And when I met these guys and I went, wow, these guys are talking about everything I want to create in the world. So I was like, that. So I chose that. And I never chose anything based on the money. I chose it based on that matches the energy of what it is I would like to be in the world and what it is I would like to see in the world. So you sort of keep choosing that. And I mean, if I look at every choice I made, and then it was like, then, okay, so more money showed up here, more money showed up there. Oh, this one cost more money than I made. Okay, so did that one. And then this. It wasn't like I only chose things that made me money. It's like, and still, there's classes that I would do that are not, I would say, big money spinners, but God, they change people's lives. So that matches the energy of what it is that I'm choosing. And if I look at like the timeline of all of these things that I have, purchased or, have in my life now, from the stock portfolios to the real estate to, the cars, all of that and more, it's been every day. It's like, what action can I take? And it, like I said, it hasn't been about the money, but I remember investing in the castle. That wasn't like an easy gig. That wasn't like I went, oh yeah, I've just got this money lying around, I'm going to invest in this castle. Like, I remember Gary poked me so much because he was like, he wanted me involved in it because he also wanted my energy involved in it. And he's a smart man. He would know that if my energy's in it, it's going to, that's something I'm really good at. If my energy's in something, it usually expands. It's a capacity I have. So he wanted my energy in it, which also means my money in it, right? And I was like, I can't afford this. How the hell am I going to, be a part owner of a castle? Because every month we pay, different expenses, etc. And he kept poking me, and he'd do this thing of like, oh yeah, you can't afford it. And I was like, God, and it just was so out of my realm. It is not something I thought was possible ever, And then when I sort of, I want to say like leaned into it, because when you choose like for riches and you choose like that, it's not this sure thing. Like, it's not this energy where, you can go talk to someone or the castle goes, don't worry about it. This is how it's going to work out. And this is how it's going to turn out. And everything's going to be okay. You got to lean into it and go, okay, this is it. Like, Paula, I remember the first time myself and Gary and Dane and Brendan Watt caught a private jet in Europe. And we had business class tickets booked. We were flying from London to Italy. And we had business class tickets booked. And we were sort of mucking around going, what if we got a jet? And we were like, oh my God, and then it was so funny because there was 4 of us, and like, say 2 of us would be like, yeah, let's do it. And the other 2 would be like, no, we can't do it. And then those 2 would go, okay. And then the other 2 would go, no. So it was like this back and forth sort of thing. And we finally went, okay, what is this going to create? Like, it's so out of our comfort zone, choosing a private jet. And literally we would just lose the flights on business class because it was so late that it wasn't like we were going to get our money back on that either. So you were paying for business class tickets that you're never going to use, plus a private jet. So it was so out of our comfort zone. It wasn't as though the money was just sitting around there. But what we started looking at was, is this going to create something different in our lives? And for me, It so matched the energy of leaning into something greater, reaching for something greater, and choosing that. And I remember it was around the time of Gary and Dane's birthdays, because they had their birthday on the same day. And so I went to Harrods in London and I brought some champagne and some caviar and thought, okay, let's have champagne and caviar on this jet. If we're going to do it, let's do it, you know. And we got on the jet. It was a really little jet, you know, and we got on the jet and we had our champagne and caviar. And the four of us had these conversations that I'm going to say we probably never would have had before. That situation wasn't there. So by the time I got off that jet, I knew it had contributed more to my life. Did it mean less money in the bank account? Yeah. But had it contributed more? Yes. And for me, that is such a key element, Paula, of creating riches for yourself, because it's not just about money. It's something else that is not tangible and not cognitive that you've got to reach for and ask for and lean into it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, and I think like we all, I would say, like, for those of you that are listening, like, thank you for those stories. And also, like, if you're listening to this now, like, what is your thing? If you look back at your life, like, you've probably reached for something where you're like, this is like a shot in the dark, a pie in the sky. Like, I don't know who the fuck I think I am trying to do this. And it worked out, or it didn't work out, but something else showed up. Like, I think so often, it's funny because there's a saying in Mexico, lo te checa, choca te checa. Like, if it like chokes you, like, you need to look at what it is that's actually stopping you from choosing, or that has you like judging the thing or whatever that is. And I think this is such a perfect situation because money is one of the easiest things that we have to like write people off. Right? Like, it's like, oh, Simone has a private jet. And it's easy for me. Like, right now, I do not have the money in my bank account to hire a private jet. And it would be easy for me to say, it would be easy for me to say, like, oh, that'll never be my reality, or, oh, I would never. Right? Like, so, but that's the thing, like, you need to look at that. And that's how, for me, like, so, I mean, I've now worked with you for several years. And like, that was like my baby step initially was like, I need to look at the places where I think Simone's reality is so far beyond anything that I think I can choose. And sometimes that was the only action I could take, was to like pocket pod my like, well, that'll never be me, or like I could never, or oh, I could, you know, like I would never, or whatever that is, right? Like, and what I will tell you, like, dear listeners, is that the more you're willing to actually just be like, okay, what are my points of view right here? Like, where are the judgments? Where's the like where is that coming? Like, what is creating that? And then just pocket pod all of your points of view about it. And I think that is one of the biggest things where like I said, if you look back, there's always places where you've like reached beyond what you thought you should have, or beyond what your parents told you could, or whatever that situation is. And now if you look into that future, just like Simone said, and it's like, what's the pie in the sky? Like, what's the beyond for you? And maybe today's not the day you choose it, but what you can then do is ask a question, like, what would it take?
That you
like, what would it fucking take to be able to hire
that
a private
action,
jet?
that one small thing that you went, oh, okay, I'm gonna pock and pod. I'm gonna use the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement and destroy and uncreate everything in my world where I've decided I can never have. Like, that's an action. That's brilliant. And everything that is times code selling and right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, POVIDs and beyonds. Because I sometimes think that I created so much debt in my life just so I had good copy. It's like I didn't always have money. I mean, the second book I wrote, if you haven't checked it out, it's called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And I was, found myself 187,000 Australian dollars in debt with nothing to show for it. I remember working out how much it cost to run my life, and it was 8,000 Australian dollars a month. And I was in a beyond, just sitting there going, how the hell am I ever going to make $8,000 a month? Like, that is just, for me, it was impossible. And I remember spending 10 minutes in my kitchen just going, this can't, this is never, like all of that energy. And then I remember I poured myself a glass of wine and I went, you have to change this point of view. You have to change it and go, what is it going to take? And I had nothing. Like, I didn't even have a friggin' blank slate. I had nothing, but I was like, I knew I had to change my point of view around money and about what I was capable of. So you can do that too, ladies and gentlemen. And everywhere that you've decided that, oh yeah, that's a great story, Simone, and you can do that. And so can you, Paula, because you work with Simone, and you can't, and oh, Dios mío, when you try and uncreate it, all right, and good and bad, pock and pot, all names, shorts, boys, cobras, and beyonds. I want to ask you a question, Paula, because at the moment you are currently choosing something that you had put in the, oh my God, that's never going to happen box. So can you tell them what that is? And
so I'm in the process of purchasing a house, and it's like, I think it's valued at just over $1 million, which, like, what is even $1 million? Like, but also, like, real talk, my reality is like, what, like, I don't even know, I've never even seen like $1 million like in one place. Like, I can't even, it's just this like number. But it's funny, I was talking to my mom this morning about it, and you know, and of course she's like, yeah, like, I'll pray for you, and, you know, all the, like, the contributions in the way that my beautiful mother can and does. And what was really interesting is I had to acknowledge where, like, 2 years ago, when this conversation first started about purchasing the house, like, there was no way. Like, I wasn't making the money. I was terrified that I couldn't even make the rent for the house that I had just moved into. And now fast forward 2 years, and it's like a conversation of where, like, oh, okay, cool. So what would it take? Like, I need, you know, $300,000, and then, you know, approval for a loan. Like, you start to go through that process, similar to what you just said about, like, the 8,000 Australian dollars, right? So, like, I had to get to a point where, like, I don't know what $1 million looks like. I don't know. Like, and what I can know, and what I do know is, like, what are the steps, what actions are required in order to create this thing that I want? Like, so if I want to buy the house, like, I got to work backwards, right? So I got to get approved for a loan. I got to have a certain amount of money in the bank. Like, and as I started to chip away at that and get really clear on what those actions were, the $1 million, and this is going back to the conversation with my mom this morning, it actually doesn't have a charge for me anymore. Like, for me, it's not about the $1 million, or like whatever the value of the house is. It could be $100,000 or 400,000 or 7 million, wherever you're at in the world. But, like, to me, it's no longer about the money. It's about the creation that is required in order to actualize what I'm asking for. And I actually, like, it's, even you talk to people in Los Angeles and they're like, oh, you're buying a house? Oh, ooh, wow, congratulations. Like, oh, good luck. You know, whatever all the judgments that people have. But it's one of those things where I see in such a different way now, where, like, what action can I take is one of the greatest questions you can ask to change your financial reality. And I actually want to ask you, so you said that when you first did the cost of creating your life, it was 8,000 Australian dollars. How long was it until
3 months.
Actually, like, created $8,000 in a month?
I know, wild. And every time I do it, Paula, it takes me about 2 or 3 months, and I'm creating that amount. So I keep threatening myself that I'm going to do it again and work out how much it costs to run my life. So, because
that is wild. Okay, mine was 3 months too. So the first time I did this, so some of you might know this or you don't know, but years ago I took Simone's Getting Out of Debt Joyfully program. And when I worked out the cost of creating my life, it was 20,000 American dollars, which I was,
you were nowhere near that.
I was nowhere near 20,000. Like, like, nowhere near. Like, I didn't have no business writing $20,000 on a piece of paper. Like, but within 3, actually, like, whoa, my tripod's falling. Within 3 months, I had generated over $20,000 in a month. And I will tell you, it's all a great story. Like you said earlier, I love that you acknowledge that. But what I will say is I worked really fucking hard that month. Like, I worked hard. I was on the road. I was, like, taking clients. I was doing all the things. It was not an easy month, but I hit more than $20,000 in 3 months. And I was like, whoa. And what I will say is that it got easier and easier to do that. Like, the next time I hit $20,000 in a month, I realized I didn't have to work. I don't even know how to say this in English. Like, I didn't work as hard that month as I did the first month. And then it just kept getting easier, and then more money kept, you know, so it's really interesting. Like, when you look, I'm still shook over the 3 months. Like, that's pretty crazy that it was both 3 months. But yeah, so I'm just saying, like, when Simone talks about working out the cost of creating your life, it's one of those things, and I'm not saying it may be 3 months for you. It may be 3 weeks for you. It may be 3 years. I don't know. You get to choose.
Well, there's a demand that you have in your world when you do it. Like, I remember the next time I did it, and it was 55,000 Australian dollars a month that I needed. And that was just as mind-blowing to me as $8,000 a month, you know, because I was like, are you serious? Because I'd started traveling more, because your life changes, you know. And I was like, 55,000. And again, I had that moment of just like, how the fuck am I ever going to create $55,000 a month? And then I went, you know what, Simone, get to work. Like, ask some questions. It's like, choose. Like, how many times do people bitch and moan about what they don't have, rather than, as you said before, which was gold, take some action, even if it's the action of using the Access Consciousness clearing statement and destroying and uncreating everything, about where you've decided you cannot. That's a great action. And then start living and start choosing a different reality, because there is nobody else who can choose that except for you. And you keep blaming everybody else around you, but it's nobody else's fault if you don't have something. It's yours. You create your own reality. So I want to leave the listeners here with a couple of questions here to take home as well. Is one of them that changed my life a lot was every single evening when I'm brushing my teeth and I put this Post-it note on my bathroom mirror, I would POC and POD, which is part of the Access Consciousness clearing statement. I would POC and POD everywhere that I have uninvited money today. Because we ask for more money to show up, but we're so quick to uninvite it. Like, you could see a pair of shoes or something like that, or want to travel business class and you can't, quote, don't have the money. So you go, oh, I can't afford that. And the second you go, I can't afford that, you've just uninvited money. Now, I'm not saying you have to go buy the new shoes or buy the business class ticket, but instead you can be in question. So you could look at a flight and say, hey, okay, the business class is X amount, economy is X amount. Okay, I'm going to book the economy, but what would it take? Universe, show me the money. What would it take for me to be able to be in business class? Ask a question. Don't negate it, because you negate it all the time, and then you refuse money to show up and you literally push it aside. So every single night, POC and POD everywhere that you have uninvited money today, and see if something different starts to show up. The second question I'm going to give you is, if you were creating your financial reality today, what would you choose? Stop choosing your reality based on everybody else. I mean, even the energy when Paula said, people are like in LA, oh, you're buying a house. And it's like, you just moved into this different realm. It's like, be willing to be in a different realm. Be willing to be the difference that you be. Don't try and be normal and try and fit into everybody else, because everybody else is playing on this field that is, maybe comfortable in their uncomfortable, but they're never reaching for something greater. Is that you, or would you like to reach for something greater and lean into it? It's not about working it out. It's about being in question. So, but it's up to you. It's your choice.
Yeah. And I love that you say that, like, it is up to you and it is your choice. And I remember the first time I heard, like, I was sitting across the table from Dane here, who's one of the co-creators of Access Consciousness. And I was asking him a question, and I asked this question, and I finally said to him, I was like, and if you say it's just a choice, I swear to God, I will turn over this table right now. Like, I don't want to hear that it's just a choice. And he kind of laughed and he's like, well, it is a choice. And I was like, okay, well, what else am I not looking at here then? Like, I get that it's a choice, but then how do I get there? And I was actually reading the Right Riches for You book this morning, and one of the things that Gary says is, he says, money's never the problem in our lives. It's about what we're willing to receive. And what we're willing to receive is just a choice. And I love what you just said, Simone, because it's like, we want to make it a money problem. We want to make it, like, oh, my growing up situation, or whatever we've experienced in life, which, like, yeah, it might be real and true for you. And also, ultimately, it is just a choice. So if you didn't have a money problem, what could you choose? Like, what else would be possible that you've never, ever,
in
ever
that note,
considered?
I'm going to invite you to, I have a Right Riches beginners class coming up, and it's in April. It's Australia time zone, 6th to the 10th of April. And it's only 2 hours a day over 5 days, because 2 hours is about what people can handle when we're talking about Right Riches for You. So it's over 5 days though, and you get a manual, lots of fun. So if you want to join up for that, we will have that link in the details below, and you can, and subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends. I am so grateful. Can I just say, if you're listening to this, there are so many of you who reach out to me and thank me every week for the podcast and say that you wait for it to come, etc. I love the gratitude. So please, it's like, because when you give me feedback, it contributes to me to contribute to you. And that's how it works. And that's also how it works with money, guys. So I am super grateful for your contribution and for your feedback and for your gratitude. And also don't forget to follow us on the podcast has its own Instagram now, Choice, Change and Action podcast on Instagram. So you can find that also on mine as well. But please, if riches is something that you're looking for and asking for, and you would like to change your reality, how it currently is, into something different, right? Into something greater, then please look at coming onto the Right Riches beginners class. And if not now, then use the questions we gave you. Use the tools, okay? Even if you go away and just use the tools and listen to this podcast again and maybe write down the processes and use them, because as we've both mentioned, it's your choice. There is nothing choking you except for you and your point of view, okay? And I mean choking as in a bad way, not in a good way, right? I have to say that. That is time to get zoom, right? No, good and bad.
That's a podcast for another time.
And on that note, fade to black. And that's a wrap. No.
Amazing.
No, thank you so much, Paula, for being on here with me today. And thank you, everybody, for being in the world and the brilliance that you be. Please know that you're brilliant, okay? Mwah. Bye, everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change, and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.